All right, gang. Welcome to the next edition of the stuff about money they don't teach in school. As you can tell, well, yeah, I left the door open and closed said door. Today, I'm operating from home. The hair is getting particularly long, apparently gray. The beard is out of control. This COVID stuff, let me tell you, I miss my barber. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about this is stuff that is, I think, really, really important because it's some of the stuff that is most often, let's just say it's messed up, right? People misunderstand credit cards, and this is one of the more damaging things that I see financially for people. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the rumors here. We're going to do this very sort of stream of conscience, if you will. I don't have a big presentation about it. So let's do this. I'm going to see if I can share a different screen for a minute. And in order to do that, first, I have to go to the other screen here. I'm going to kick out of this. I'm going to make sure that this is going to work for us. Let's see here. And what do we see? Oh, good. You see the Google screen. So let me just kind of walk through this other element, and we're going to do this using my favorite new tool, Jamboard. Right, so this is some stuff from what mind your shuns. We need to do this. Click. All right, so talking about credit cards, here's the thing that I think people most commonly misunderstand. People assume that credit cards, if you get them, you're going to somehow automatically get hurt. Like, oh, if you do that, you can just count on messing up your financial future, because if you use one of these credit cards, you're just going to end up paying too much. And that's not how it works. Let's see right there. Look at that. Credit. All right. So we're gonna write about, we love Jamboard, right? Because it's it's hard to write with a mouse. So your brain gets moving faster than you can move on them. Anyway, what happens is people borrow money they don't have. That's the big thing about a credit card is you're going to get offers for these. If you're in high school or junior high, like, you're not getting offers for these. But if you go off to college, once you're 18 years old and once they figure out you're out there, credit card companies are going to send you things in the mail or in your email. They're going to try to incentivize you to get a credit card. Why do they do this? Well, because they understand something about the way money works. First of all, it's really, really tempting to spend money you don't have. Thus the credit part, right? And then what a credit card does is it is a loan. They authorize an amount of money for you. And once they do, they will let you take that money and spend it before you have it, right? And then you have to pay them back, and you pay them back with interest. So here's the problem that most people don't understand. I mean, the credit cards have a few moving parts, right? You've got I'm going to call this your line of credit, and we'll just abbreviate this. So the line of credit is how much you can borrow, right? And then you have your annual percentage rate that you pay. So annual percentage rate is APR. This is the interest that you actually pay to the credit card company for the privilege of borrowing the money. So APR, and then you're going to have a grace period, and I'll just sort of abbreviate this for now, but the grace period, and then you've got your payment schedule. If you borrow money, what you're doing is you're saying, well, here's this chunk of money I'm going to borrow today, and they're going to take your APR interest rate, and they're going to charge you this much in interest, okay? And all they're going to do, it's based on it for a year, but they don't make you pay the whole thing back. What they say is, well, you have to pay a portion of this back, and we're going to charge you interest on the whole thing, right? So you're paying interest on the whole thing, and you pay this much of it's the amount that's due this month. Well, you're still paying interest on the whole thing. So next month, what happens is you owe a little bit less, right? This amount here that you kind of paid off, but you're still paying interest on this big amount, including the part that you still have some interest owed there. So what happens is it takes a really long time to get that paid off. And you end up paying a whole bunch of money. Remember, we talked about mortgages a little bit? And we talked about this was in another, if you go back and look at the types of loans, and we talked about mortgage loans were one of them that is interesting because that you pay more interest up front. Why? Because the amount you borrowed is biggest here, and then over time, as you pay the loan off, the amount that you borrow it shrinks, right? You pay some of it off, and so the interest amount shrinks too because there's less that's being borrowed. Credit cards work the same way. Where people get in trouble is they think, well, once I've paid some of this down, I have available credit again, and so they spend back to that limit. And what they end up doing is making minimum payments all the time, and they just keep paying interest to the credit card company. So it makes everything more expensive. So that to me is a mess, right? Well, you don't want to do that. So are credit cards evil? No, they're not. What credit cards do is they make it very easy to get detached from your money, right? I don't have the money, but it's okay. I have a credit card and I can pay for it later. So I don't feel the pain right now. So I go ahead and do this. Now, there's another area in the world that understands how this works, right? You know what it is? It's casinos. Why do you think casinos use chips instead of dollars? It's because people are disassociative. What it means is they don't think about it the same way. When it's money, you think, man, I could use that for something else. With chips, you start to just go, oh, it's like playing with toys. And a credit card is similar. People detach themselves from the purchase more emotionally, and they spend more. It's been documented that people will spend a lot more with credit cards than they will with using cash. So how do you properly use a credit card? Well, isn't that the question, right? Here's the thing. Let's go back to our original purchase, and now we'll just use a different color because it's more fun. If you borrow this much money in a month, okay, then you will owe interest on this much money. When is the interest due, right? If this is in month 1, then the interest is due at the end of this month, right? It turns out that what we usually do is you make a series of purchases. It could be just one purchase, but you make a purchase here for this much money. And then later on, you make another purchase for this much money. And then maybe you make a couple of small purchases in here, and then you don't make any purchases for a while. And then at the end of the month, you make one more purchase. Well, with the credit card, whoa, look out. What just happened there? I don't even know. Sorry. Oh, I know what I did. I have a stupid mouse thing, and there's a button on the mouse that was a back button. Sorry, new mouse. That's what we get, right? Back to our illustration. Apologies. What happens here is you have a rolling balance, don't you? You had some money that was spent here, and then you had some money that was spent here. And what the credit card company does is say, well, we're going to look at your total balance at the end of our statement period here. And that statement period is due by this date here. And as long as I pay whatever my statement balance is before this time, I don't pay any interest on that amount, right? And so that's what we want, is we want to avoid paying interest. So you have to pay at least the statement balance, everything that is the interest is owed at this time. There may be new purchases, right? Maybe since then you've purchased some purchases down here, and so you have your total balance, and then you have your statement balance, right? the total balance, if you don't pay the total balance, you are still accruing interest. However, as long as that interest gets paid off before its statement due date, right? As long as we pay this off, you still will not be paying interest, right? But the trick is, for the money that when it is owed, as long as the money that you've borrowed is paid off before it's due, you don't pay interest. So what I tell people is set up an auto payment. And it comes out of your bank account over here, right? And so if we have a bank with our money in there, you need to make sure that that payment is set up to always happen and always pay the full balance. Then the danger, of course, is what? And if you said, well, I better keep track of where my money is, you are absolutely right. Because if you don't have enough money in the bank, guess what's going to happen then? They're going to charge you overdraft fees. If I don't pay my credit card bill on time, they're going to charge me late payment fees. If I don't pay on time, they're going to charge me interest as well. And so this becomes kind of a nightmare if you get behind, or if you miss your accounting, right? You make a mistake, all of a sudden all that interest becomes due, and that's when it gets expensive and it's damaging. So the credit card itself, you just need to understand how it works. Now, some of you may be thinking to yourself, well, what about things like airline miles and this, that, and the other? What I'm going to tell you is that's not what matters. But here's the trick. If you are going to start making it that such that, let me rationalize why I can have this credit card. I'm going to try to explain away why it's okay for me to pay some interest because I'm getting an airline ticket, or because I'm getting points or something like that. You're fooling yourself, right? You're paying more in interest than the benefit that you're getting. And so that's the thing is, people will rationalize what they want. And what I will tell you is you need to be very, very honest with yourself. Credit cards in and of themselves, I will admit to people, I have a credit card. I use it every month. We buy our groceries on it and many of our bills. We pay it off every month. And by doing so, what happens is we avoid paying the interest and the penalties that are associated with it. So to me, credit card is an access point to get to cash, and it has different consumer protection rules. But for many people, they have problems with credit cards. They spend money they don't have, they get in trouble. So you have to decide, which person are you? Are you the person that understands, I don't spend money I don't have. When I use a credit card, that's the money I have to have. If I make a swipe of that card, it represents money I can pay right now. That's different than saying, I have a credit card and it represents my ability to buy a thing that I want before I can afford it. Two very different concepts, right? So anyway, those are the keys to what we're talking about with this whole thing. And so I'm going to go back, figure out where we're at here. When it comes to whether or not you should take a credit card out, ultimately it's going to be, you have to figure out can you be responsible to not overspend? And you also have to know, will I spend more? This is a funny thing, and I will fess up to being guilty to this. I have been in a place where I needed convenience. I've been traveling before, and I've used a credit card to purchase a meal, and then I purchased things that I didn't need. Maybe I bought the drink or something else. Well, you'll spend more. So you need to be aware that credit cards have a tendency to spend more than you need to. Credit cards also give you a tendency to think that you can buy something you can't afford. So don't ever do that. If you want to avoid getting in trouble with credit cards, you can start by never having them at all, or you can know that that credit card represents the money that you have to have. If you do that and you pay it off every time, that is not the problem, right? Remember, power tools in and of themselves, they are dangerous when operated incorrectly. When operated safely, they don't harm you. We can say this about many things. So credit cards are no different. The error comes in the operator, not the instrument. Know how they work, and you can protect yourself. Until next time, thanks for tuning in, guys. Keep in mind that we have other resources available. I'm not even going to try to flip around on the screen right now because I'm working from home on a single monitor. But email us, info@littlejohnfs.com. If you go to our YouTube page, you will find that there are lots of these lessons that we've been doing for the last month. So there are plenty of topics to explore. And if there's something you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to get that information to you. So thanks as always. Until next time, this has been David Littlejohn. Take care.